What's going on, guys? It's been a minute that I posted a video, but however, after watching Jack Cluck's video, I'm motivated to say something, and a lot of people won't agree with it. But though, in the course of the past couple years, I started studying law. And the reason I started studying law is because I got to a point. I used to be a liberal about 8 years ago, and I realized the liberals didn't have it. They didn't know what they were doing. So I started following some of the Republican doctrine, and I realized the Republicans are nothing but Republicrats. They talk conservatively, and they talk about being conservative, but that only applies during election time. Case in point, we got the lady from Minnesota complaining about Obamacare handouts, yet she collected 200 and some odd $1,000 a year for a subsidy that she's getting from a farm. Talk about socialism. When it comes to businesses and their private interests and their pork barrel legislation, Republicans seem to be more socialist than the damn liberals. And I realized the Republicans didn't have it. Then I jumped on the Alex Jones and Ron Paul movement. Now, sure, they would reveal information to you, and after you hear these guys talk, you get upset. And I realize they don't have it either. Way off point, way off base. Then I went to a point where I started listening to conservative television. Listening to conservative radio. I would listen to guys like Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Rush Limbaugh. And those guys are nothing but commercial prostitutes. I thought those guys had it too. But, they like to mention the Constitution. They like to mention American heritage. But they turn those things into political statements. And that's my problem. Every time you listen to somebody that says something very profound as it relates to a conservative talk radio host or blogger, it's always a political statement. Political statements are good if you want to get a group of people to rally behind you when you talk. It invokes thought-provoking conversation, but it doesn't solve anything. I got to a point, I got tired of hearing the bloggers. I end up getting depressed because of it. Got tired of hearing the bloggers. Got tired of hearing Alex Jones talk about the New World Order. We know these things exist. You get tired of hearing everybody crying liberalism and socialism and fascism. Got tired of marching. You got tired of marching in the Federal Reserve rallies, and I got tired of writing to my senators and congressmen. And it seemed every time we marched, we got ignored. And whenever we write to the senators and congressmen, it fell on deaf ears. And I thought about something. I used to think the government always did everything wrong. But as I began to start studying law, I realized they're doing everything right. Now let me back up for a minute. Let me explain. It's draconian, I know. But within their law form, they're doing everything right. Our problem, people, we don't understand law. Most of us have become a group of functionally illiterates demanding freedom. And that's our problem. And as I began to study law, everything clicked and everything made sense. We'll have guys preach the Constitution constantly. However, they don't know how to present the Constitution or any of their issues in a legal matter to compel someone to answer them and to defend against it in court. What good does it have if you have a million rights if you don't know how to enforce any of them? If the only thing you can do is cry and demand your rights, and you can't articulate that intelligibly on a piece of paper by using the proper judicial devices, without writing a pleading or memorandums and points of law on a piece of paper and presenting that to a court intelligently to force these individuals to come stand and defend, you don't have any rights. And I'll tell you something. As I began to study law, the first thing I did, I made thousands of dollars of debt disappear. And then after that, I was able to go to a library, shepherdize court cases. And what I mean by shepherdizing court cases, look up cases to see if they were overturned and to look at what does the Constitution really mean. What is a constitution? Who creates a constitution? We haven't been taught that in school. A constitutor creates a constitution. And what is a constitutor? Someone that passes their debts down to a third party. And so our problem, people, we don't know law. You know, I used to read the Wall Street Journal. But I thought to myself, I better start reading publications that the courts are starting to come out with by the way of judges' holdings in court cases. When you begin to read judges' holdings in court cases, not only do the judges' holdings explain the law to you, but the judges' holdings will also explain to you why people didn't win their court cases. You know, I've been reading some court cases that are over 50 or 60 years old. And you know what? There hasn't been a change in law in this country in over 60 or 70 years that's been drastic. Even if you look at the way judges rule across the board, whether it be state, federal, you know, even courts outside of different jurisdictions, as it relates to many issues, the ruling is uniformly done across the board, the same thing. You know, a lot of people complain about the Patriot Act and how they can just wiretap your phone, and they cry the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment doesn't apply. And I'm going to explain to you. It's kind of technical. Sure, the Fourth Amendment applies to federal police agencies. I want you to understand that federal police agencies like IRS, CID, and other agencies. Certain things apply to state, don't apply to the federal government. You got to understand that. Secondly, your telephone, they can't just come in your house and just search your telephone. But guess what? Your phone line is hooked up to what? Electrical wires. The electrical wires are outside. So is your phone lines are outside. In this day and age, they're not searching your phone, but the electronic signal that comes through the line into your phone, guess what? It's out in the public. They can search it and don't have to tell you. There's nothing illegal about that. That was ruled on in the early 1930s and 40s. There hasn't been a change. The change is we don't know law. When you understand law and how to utilize it to your advantage, then you can start to stand up, enforce your rights, and start to hold people accountable to violate those rights. Don't expect them to tell you what those rights are. You see, anytime you have anybody telling you what your legal options are, they are telling you in a manner that's beneficial to you. They are explaining those things in such a way that it coerces you into waiving your rights. The time is winding down to 10 minutes, so I'm going to stop this and make a second part.